and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening live here to Brandon's World on this Wednesday, February 5th, 2020, the first show of the semester. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hour 2, and we are finally going to get to my favorite sport in all of sports, the National Football League. Of course, a lot of stuff went down before we went on hiatus, including the fact the Browns fired an hillbilly, hired a new coach, and now they have what looks like an hillbilly as their offensive coordinator. We are going to figure that out. Also, breaking news, the Eagles just hired Press Taylor as their new passing game coordinator. You know, I will give my thoughts on that. I'm not really sure about that. I'm not really sure what that title means, and I'll explain why that is in about 15 minutes. But we are about to go in depth here, ladies and gentlemen, and review my predictions for the 2019-2020 NFL season. Let me just say, I got a lot right, I got a lot wrong. Stick with me. I'm going to talk about the Browns, the Eagles, the Super Bowl, and much more. Here we go. Let's start with the AFC East. So, New England. Ladies and gentlemen, I predicted that right here, right now, we would be talking, instead of the Kansas City Chiefs having their Super Bowl parade, I predicted Tom Brady and Bill Belichick would be owning up Lombardi Trophy number 7 together, and that the New England Patriots would have a 14-2 regular season, get the number 1 seed in the AFC, and go win the Super Bowl. That, of course, did not happen. There is speculation going around that Tom Brady could leave New England. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I don't buy it one bit. I don't think Brady's leaving. I don't want to see Tom Brady leave. You know, I've always said this. I don't know why people root for dynasties to fail. Dynasties is what makes sports keep going. If we don't have a dynasty, sports is boring. Look at baseball right now. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the cheating scandal. Besides that, did baseball have a really entertaining offseason? No. Was the World Series really entertaining this year? Nah, not really. When's the last time baseball had a true dynasty? The Giants, who won 3 out of 5 years, but they never really truly felt like a dynasty. You know, it's why baseball is dying. It's why football is prospering. Because it's a boring sport. There's not that many good teams. There's not a team that you hate that you want to see go down besides the Yankees, and the Yankees really aren't a dynasty anymore. New England's a dynasty. People don't like them. They keep winning. It's the New England way. It's the most fascinating thing I've ever seen in sports, and I want to see it keep going. Now, Buffalo, I got kind of wrong. I would say I was wrong on Buffalo. I thought they would go 8-8. I thought Josh Allen would have a better season, but I thought they would miss the playoffs. They ended up going 10-6. Of course, they were the number 5 seed in the AFC, and Josh Allen played okay in the wildcard game against Houston. Of course, they had that 16-0 lead. They didn't come out with a victory, but I thought Josh Allen actually played okay in that game. Buffalo, to me, is a bright future. I told everybody that the Jets were going to improve last year. I predicted that they would go 8-8. They finished 7-9, 1 game off, not really that big of a deal. And then obviously, I think Miami, we all kind of got wrong. I only predicted Miami to win 1 game. They ended up winning 5. But let me tell you guys, I love what I'm seeing out of the Miami Dolphins. This season, the Miami Dolphins were one of the best coached teams in football. They were way better coached than the Cleveland Browns, who had a bunch of talent, and had a coach who was running around trying to control a bunch of personalities, and it didn't work. Okay, it's why he's now the tight ends coach of the New York Giants. The Dolphins are well coached. They need to draft well, and I don't even necessarily know if they need to draft a quarterback this year. Talk about this a little bit later in the show. I'm not the biggest fan of Tua Tagovailoa. I don't think he's going to be that great of a quarterback in the NFL. I'm way bigger on Trevor Lawrence next year, as well as Justin Fields from Ohio State. I think they're both better than Tua. I don't think Tua is all that. I know Tua Tagovailoa. I know everybody's in love with him. I don't see it. And if I'm Miami, I think I just keep Ryan Fitzpatrick for 1 more year, build the offensive and defensive lines, trade up next year, and go get your quarterback. In the AFC West, now this division is where I got it wrong, folks. Los Angeles Chargers. Thank God you're moving off Phillip Rivers, because what in the L happened to you? I predicted you to be 11-5 to win the division and be the number 3 seed in the AFC, and you ended up finishing 5-11. Great job, Chargers. You know what the kids say nowadays? Boo, you stink. Find yourselves a quarterback, whether it's Justin Herbert or whether you want to trade up and get Joe Burrow, whether you want to wait the following year for Trevor Lawrence. Find yourselves a quarterback because you have a talented roster. Heck, I don't think Tom Brady would be willing to go there because they're still going to be the stepchild of the Rams. It's like the Clippers and Lakers. The Clippers are still really the stepchild of the Lakers. But hey, do what you need to do. Find yourselves a quarterback. Your roster's talented. You have a good coach. You watched a lot of close games. You just needed to move off Phillip Rivers. Congratulations. You are grown-up, Chargers. Go find yourselves a quarterback. Now, the Super Bowl winning Chiefs. I thought they would also be 11-5, but I thought the Chargers would win the tiebreaker because I like the Chargers defense better than Kansas City, and I still do, by the way. That's a hot take right there, if you want to say so yourself. I had the Chiefs losing in the divisional round to New England. I had them beating the Chargers in LA in the wild card round and losing to the number 1 seed New England. Folks, as you know, at the beginning of this season, I was not that all in on Patrick Mahomes. Heck, I will still say, to some degree, I like my quarterback Carson Wentz. Nobody watches Carson Wentz. You know why? Because the Eagles won 9-7 this year, and they didn't have a bunch of pieces, and they're not that entertaining, and Doug Peterson's overrated, and all this stuff the media says, blah, 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 blah. Folks, have you seen Carson Wentz play? Carson Wentz has as much talent as Patrick Mahomes. You put Carson Wentz in that offense with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, Robinson, Travis Kelce. It was basically Zach Ertz, but still, the Chiefs have way more speed. Offensive line's very similar, but the speed difference is apparent. Kansas City has a lot more speed. Folks, you put Carson Wentz in that offense, I guarantee he puts up the numbers Patrick Mahomes did. Look what Carson Wentz did this year with a bunch of lawn chairs and beanbags. Oakland, I nailed right on the head. They went 7-9. Now, I predicted that when they still had Antonio Brown. That's overachieving if I'm Oakland. They don't have AB and they still went 7-9, but now there's a rumor they want to move off Derek Carr. Oakland, what are you doing? Derek Carr is a good quarterback. And again, I like John Gruden. I've always told you guys this. I speak West Coast offensive minded. Checked out our touchdown. That's why I love my guys. Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, John Gruden. McCarthy even runs the West Coast system. The Shanahans, all these guys. The West Coast system is what I speak to. I understand it. Derek Carr fits the system. Derek Carr is good. Oakland, or I should say Las Vegas now. Las Vegas Raiders. What are you doing? Relax, man. You're not as good as the Chiefs. You're not as good as the Chargers. You won't be. It's okay. You can still compete for a wild card spot. Draft better. Get better on defense. You'll be okay. Now, Denver, as I call them, the boring Broncos. They went 7-9, shockingly. And Vic Fangio blew a lead against the Vikings that I would have fired them for, or they could have went 8-8. Denver's a weird team. They're old. They have some talent. We don't know about Drew Lock, yet they're boring and they win games. I can't stand to watch Denver. Denver's one of the most boring teams I've ever seen in the NFL. Run. 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, hit them with a little play action, immobile quarterback, can't score the ball. They have one elite weapon, Cortland Sutton. But yet they win football games. It shows they are well coached. All right, AFC North. I'm just going to say it, okay? I blew it on Baltimore. I thought they were going to go 7-9. They finished 14-2, and of course, they're the number 1 seed. And I know everybody's going to knock the MVP, Lamar Jackson. Oh, my God. Lamar Jackson can't throw. Folks, relax. You know what Tennessee's game plan in that divisional round was? They said, okay, you have a bunch of tight ends. We're going to cover the inside. And what's Lamar Jackson's weakness right now when it comes to throwing the ball? He can't throw the ball outside the numbers very well. So we're going to press up because Baltimore doesn't have a physical wide receiver. We're going to force Lamar to throw the ball to the outside. Lamar, I didn't think played terribly in that game. I didn't think he played all that terrifically well, but I didn't think he played terribly. And next year, Baltimore's going to come back because they're very well coached. Do you know what that means, Browns fans? Coaching. Do you know that matters? It does. So Baltimore is well coached. They have a top 3 coach in football, and John Harbaugh, who came from the Andy Reid coaching tree. They're going to retool. They're probably going to get a receiver or two. Lamar's going to get better at throwing on the outside in Baltimore. They may not be 14-2. They may take a step back regular season-wise record, maybe go 11-5, 10-6. But they're going to be a force come playoff time. All right, Pittsburgh. This one's kind of run out the window because Big Ben got hurt. But I did predict them to go 12-4 and finish as the number 2 seed in the AFC and win the division. And they finished 8-8, which is really good for Pittsburgh. Remember everybody blasted them when they traded for Minka Fitzpatrick? And I said, no, it's a great deal for them. Why? Because you were probably going to draft a defensive back anyways if you were going to have a top 5 draft pick. Get Minka in the system and see what you can do. Boom. Now the Steelers are 8-8, and if Ben comes back healthy next year, they'll be competing with the Ravens for the division in the AFC North. Now, Cincinnati, I'm going to skip the Browns and go to Cincinnati for right now. Man, I predicted them to go 3-13. They finished 2-14. That's pretty accurate. They're going to draft Joe Burrow, the quarterback out of LSU. However, could I make an argument for the Bengals to draft Chase Young? Let me just say this. The Bengals' offensive line is okay. It's really garbage, but they have maybe a guard and a center. They need to improve their tackles. They're like the Browns' offensive line right now. Our defensive line's old. They don't really have a secondary. Why not go out and get Chase Young, tank again next year for Trevor Lawrence? Because I think Lawrence is better than Burrow, and you need both. You need a defensive line and offensive line and receivers in order for a quarterback to be good. I don't think they should trade A.J. Green if they draft Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow's going to need A.J. Green. I like Tyler Boyd, but it would be nice. Now, if you can save the money for A.J. Green and you can go get offensive linemen, that would be okay, but I don't trust the Bengals to do that. And I do feel like that Joe Burrow will fill in Cincinnati if he goes there. And I can make an argument they need more than just a quarterback, and that Andy Dalton isn't actually that bad of a quarterback. He didn't play that bad this year. It was the fact that they had no defense, and that's what Joe Burrow's going to have to deal with if he goes into Cincinnati next year. All right. So, on the Cleveland Browns, look, I predicted them. I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit. I thought after a cool start, because reminder, I thought they were going to go 3-3. And then I looked at the back half of those 10 games, and I said they could go 9-1 and finish 12-4. I said that because remember how easy the back end of the schedule was. Then I forgot their coach couldn't game plan. Their GM didn't know how to properly build a roster. He could look for talent. He didn't know how to properly build a roster. And fans thought the Browns were going to be good, so that means that they were going to stink. And I like Andrew Berry right now, and I like Kevin Stefanski. I don't really know that much about him, but I think some of his stuff so far I heard I like. It's going to be a wait and see. I'm not going to judge Stefanski. Not going to judge Berry. I'm not going to judge Jimmy Haslam yet. It's going to be a wait and see. Now, once again, I've said this before so many countless times. Would I trade Odell Beckham for an offensive lineman? You bet in a heartbeat I would. I would trade Odell Beckham right now. If somebody gave me a first-round pick and a top offensive lineman, yes. Because we've seen Baker Mayfield work without number one receivers. We've seen him work with Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins before in the past. I also think Baker Mayfield has shown a little bit of signs of maturity so far in the interviews I've seen this offseason. But Baker, here's some advice. You don't have to win the argument. Be a grown-up. Step up. Don't do commercials. Work hard. Shut your mouth. Be coached. Go out there and win football games. That argument can be made for the whole Browns team, but especially Baker. Because, Baker, you're supposed to be the leader of this franchise. And now that Buddy Boy is gone, there's nobody in that organization backing you. If you stink this year, you're out of here. Baker, you went from one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL to maybe one of the most players I can't stand in a matter of 6 months because of your attitude. Your attitude has changed the way I feel about the Browns. And this old Browns team was a mess last year, and part of it was coaching, but part of it was players. And you can't have that. And in order for the Browns to be good again, they have to just start having discipline and drafting well. All right, in the AFC South, we got the Houston Texans. I had them winning the division at 10-6 and being the number 4 seed. I was completely right on that. Now, I had them losing the divisional round to Pittsburgh. They ended up losing in the divisional round to Kansas City. Big deal, change of teams. I pretty much got that right. Tennessee, I had them going 8-8. They finished 9-7 and went on that magical playoff run. Let me say this about Tennessee. It's the fact that Ryan Tannehill is Ryan Foles. That was the nickname I gave him. Folks, let's not overthink the room. Ryan Tannehill is good. He is not a franchise quarterback. He is a bridge quarterback. Remember when everybody came on here after Nick Foles won the Super Bowl and said, "Oh my God, Brandon, Nick Foles is better than Carson Wentz." And I said, time out, beep, 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 T.O. No, he's not. He fits well in the Eagles system. If he goes to Jacksonville, he will be nothing. And I was right on that. I actually will take Gardner Minshew over Nick Foles. I'll talk about Jacksonville in a second. Folks, if Tannehill leaves Tennessee, he's going to stink. He's in the perfect scenario. They need to franchise tag him. And the thing I like about Ryan Tannehill that I don't like about guys like Jameis Winston and these other quarterbacks, Tannehill does not turn the football over. That is key. Tannehill does not turn the football over. That's why I would franchise tag him. And Tennessee, they're still a middle of the pack team. Kind of screwed themselves by going that deep in the playoffs because they're not going to get that great of a draft pick. But Mike Vrabel is a better coach than I thought. And Tennessee, they're going to have a chance to compete for a wild card spot next season. Now, Indianapolis, I also predicted them to go 8-8. They ended up going 7-9. Obviously, this is right after the Andrew Luck retirement. Again, I've said it when it first happened. If I'm the Colts this offseason, I'm trading for Jacoby Brissett. I'm taking for Trevor Lawrence because Jacoby Brissett is another one of those bridge quarterbacks who's good, but he's not going to get you to the promised land. And then Jacksonville, I actually had them finishing at 4-12. They finished 6-10. Big deal. They're not that good of a team. They were a one-year wonder. And I was kind of shocked by that because I actually liked Blake Bortles when he was there. I thought Blake Bortles kind of fit. And then I don't know what happened there. The personalities just kind of all fell apart in Jacksonville. And that's what happened. All right, really quickly, we are going to take about a minute break. Because coming up, we're going to be talking about my Philadelphia Eagles. And we need to hear this, ladies and gentlemen. One, two, three. E-I-G-L-E-S, Eagles. Man, that felt good to say, ladies and gentlemen. So, of course, my Eagles, out of the last 4 games, they were staring at 5-7. They went 4-0. And Carson Wentz was throwing to Greg Ward and Robert Davis and Boston Scott and Miles Sanders and everybody else on the practice squad. And carried this team on his back to the playoffs. But, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, unfortunately, and I think you're going to be shocked by this, next year, I think my Eagles, and I hope I'm wrong on this, and I'm starting to feel like I am going to be wrong on this because everything I'm reading seems like they're going to go for it, but I think they're going to take a step back. I think the Dallas Cowboys next year are going to win the division. Now, I'm not endorsing Mike McCarthy. I just think the Eagles are going to get rid of some old players, namely Jason Peters, maybe Alshon Jeffrey, some of those older players. Take a step back. And, you know, this is one of the reasons why I didn't want Andrew Berry to leave Philadelphia, because Andrew Berry was very influential on the drafting of Miles Sanders, Andre Dillard, you know, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who is still, in my opinion, a bust. Who knows? He could blossom next year. But I like what Andrew Berry has done for the Eagles organization in terms of drafting, because that is not how he rose in its strength. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Eagles just named Press Taylor their passing game coordinator. To me, I guess that means he's technically their offensive coordinator. Of course, he was the QB coach. He was the quality control coach back in 2013 under Chip Kelly. Doug Peterson kept him on the staff. He kept rising up. He's also the brother of Bengals head coach Zach Taylor, and Carson Wentz is apparently very fond of Zach Taylor. Or not Zach, excuse me, Press Taylor. So I like the hire, though I like to see somebody outside the organization brought in. I think that the Eagles sometimes are very loyal to their players. And it's not a bad thing, but it also is a little bit of a bad thing because it's hard to move on from players. Like Belichick will never be loyal to players. So we'll see what this Eagles team does, but everybody that's telling me that Carson Wentz isn't that good, or that Dak Prescott is better than Carson Wentz, or that Carson Wentz is injury prone, and all this stuff, y'all need to shut your mouths. Because Carson Wentz got cheap-shotted last year by Clowney in that playoff game, and otherwise, I do believe the Eagles could have beat Seattle. The Eagles were a better team that day than the Seahawks. Their backup quarterback, Josh McCown, tore his hamstring off the bone as soon as he came into that game. The Eagles had pretty much no choice but to play an injured quarterback or play a wide receiver or quarterback. That's what they were up against, and they only lost by 8 points, and they had many opportunities to win the game. I believe Carson Wentz is in there. His mobility is a factor, and I think that we get that done. I think we beat the Seahawks with a bunch of lawn chairs and good defense. I'm happy Jim Schwartz is coming back next year's defensive coordinator. I think Jim Schwartz is a very underrated defensive coordinator. What I want to see us do is go get one more pass rusher, because our pass rush was inconsistent this season. And I want to see us go get a corner that can just man up and go play the damn ball. Because sometimes our corners are so small and we get mossed. But at the end of the day, I like this Eagles team. I don't really know how they're going to do next year, but they are my ride or die. Carson Wentz is my quarterback for the next 10 years, whether y'all like it or not. I will take him over 90% of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I watch Carson Wentz's every snap this season. I've seen enough out of Carson Wentz out of the last 4 years. The kid is as talented as Patrick Mahomes. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you take Carson Wentz and put him on that Chiefs offense, I believe he is on GOAT trajectory like Patrick Mahomes is right now. Obviously, Dallas underachieved. They got Mike McCarthy as a new head coach. I think he's a grown-up, but I think he's a grown-up version of Jason Garrett. I don't think they do anything special. The Giants and Joe Judge is a wait and see. And Washington and Ron Rivera, I don't care they got Ron Rivera. Washington's still a mess. I predicted the Giants to go 2-14 and Washington to go 3-13. Giants got 2 more wins. I thought Washington stayed the same. So there's that. Really quickly here, I'm going to run through the NFC West. Look, I thought the Niners would go 8-8, and I really like the Niners' philosophy. Though, can we talk about Kyle Shanahan? Because Kyle Shanahan, to me, blew that Super Bowl. I've always said you're going to ride or die with being aggressive. And Kyle Shanahan was not aggressive near the end of the first half when they got that sack on the Chiefs, and he didn't take the timeout. He let the clock run, and to me, that cost the Niners the game. Now, I know that the offensive pass interference that would have led to a field goal, but it's just the point. The Niners could have had time to go down and score a touchdown. Who knows what could have happened in that sequence? Even John Lynch was calling timeout. I just think it was a bad look. I think that Kyle Shanahan, for the most part, treated Jimmy Garoppolo like he was Mitchell Nobisky, and then decided late in the game that Jimmy could throw, and he had one throw, and Jimmy G missed it, and that's what caused the game. I think the Niners take a little bit of a step back next year. I think the Niners, Seattle, and the Rams all fight somewhere in that 10-6 or 13-3 range to win the division and make the playoffs. And I like Arizona going forward with Kyler Murray. In the North, I nailed it with Green Bay. Everybody told me it was crazy that they were going to go 13-3, reach the NFC Championship game. I was right on that. Everybody told me I was crazy that Chicago was taking a step back. I was right on that. I said I wasn't sold on Mitch Trubisky. He's basically Mitchell Nowitzki at this point. The Vikings, I thought, would go 8-8. They finished 10-6. They beat the Saints. They kind of overachieved a little bit. I like the Vikings roster. I like a lot about the Vikings. I like Kirk Cousins. I like their roster, but I don't love anything about them, and that's why to me they're just playoff contenders, not Super Bowl contenders, and there's a real difference. And then the Lions are obviously the Lions. And in the South, really quickly, everybody knows this by now, but I'll just say it one more time. I had Atlanta really high on my radar, and I thought the Saints were going to take a step back. I was completely wrong on that. I think the Saints' window is open for 1 to 2 more years. And I think that the Falcons' window is only open for another year or so. And that old division to me looks like it could come down to Carolina and Tampa Bay in 3 or 4 years. Who knows? But they're both messes as well. Carolina doesn't know what they're doing, even though they gave Matt Rule a long-term contract. We'll see if he can build a program there. Jameis Winston, man, turns the ball over way too much for Tampa Bay, and I've never been a big fan of Bruce Arians. So that's one of the weirdest divisions to me in football. But if you want to take a look here really quickly at the numbers of my predictions this season, out of the 32 teams, I got about 14 of them right in the regular season, which would equal 44%. I got 6 out of the 12 playoff teams that were in, so that's half. I predicted 4 out of the 8 division winners. Again, the ones I got right were the Packers and the Eagles in the NFC. And in the AFC, I got New England and I got Houston right. And then out of the entire playoff games, I picked 6 out of 11 right, which 55%. I ended up picking the Super Bowl correct. Go read our Super Bowl article on the website. I had Kansas City winning at 36-33. Didn't get the score right, but I got Kansas City right, and that's all that matters.